Compliments of the season. I am Dr. Charles Apoki. I am an Urobo man. I am an Ugieme man. Ugieme is a clan in Urobo, in the Urobo nation. I am an Otokutu man, a proud son of Otokutu. I am the second medical doctor from Otokutu, and Dr. Siloko, who was one time, I suspect, President General, he is the first doctor. Then our children and all that became doctors subsequently. Then being a doctor was a rarity. Now, there are a lot of evil reports coming up from Otokutu, and people like us must speak up. Otokutu used to be a very small community that was inaccessible directly from Warri. If we needed to go home in those days, we would go to Enere, and from Enere waterside, we would take a canoe to Opete. And from Opete, we will trek to Otokutu. Then it was how will I call it now? A remote place from the Warri Township. If you were coming from Ogeli, it was quite a distance. And so we were just there with our beautiful river that passed the back of my family compound. And we had Apoki waterside. In Otokutu, we have a street named after my grandfather, and several of my younger ones have streets named after them. The President General currently is my younger brother, John Weibo. So with urbanization, with the construction of the Otokutu Bridge, urbanization took place. And so many buildings were erected. It became one of the biggest towns, if not the biggest town, in Ugieme Kingdom and Ogeli South. And so, with urbanization and the influx of visitors, there was an erosion of our cultural values. Just before my father left for Warri in 1947 to work in the Warri Urban District Council, November 15th, 1947, our people were predominantly loggers, that is, logs floated to our waterside and we sawed them into planks. And then we also traded. And there is a dance that is popular in Otokutu and Ugieme land. It's called Uje. The Uje dance is a very physical dance. And my late uncle, Tuesday Abiwaye, was a very good dancer. In the Uje dance and several of the festivals we do in my community, any person that does evil, he is used to compose a song. And from generation to generation, when they dance Uge or they do festivals, those songs will be rendered or sung, and it prevented the Ugieme man and the Otokutu man from doing evil. And so we have a saying, Omu Ugieme, Omu Fo. I asked somebody, he told me that it means that the Ugieme man is a peaceful person. But I also suspected that it also means the Ugieme man, Ofasa, that is, he is a person of appropriateness, decency, rightness. And my father would tell me, I'm Ugieme, I'm really nonsense, that we Ugieme people, we don't take nonsense. And our parents were very strict. You didn't bring what did not belong to you to the household. So from Okwagbe, Osiefrun, Ekapamre, Otokutu, we had missionaries, the African Church and the Catholic Church. In fact, the church in my community, African Church, is more than 100 years old. But this sudden influx of internet fraud, you will find out that most of the internet fraudsters reside in suburban communities that have electricity, that do not have police stations. They don't have police stations. And so, a lot of these suburban towns, I don't want to mention them, you have internet fraudsters. Let me start with the case of the man who was killing people under the bridge. That incident, the man was not a native of the community. He was apprehended by the people of the community. Number two, that bridge was a long bridge with enough space underground, underneath it. So it was a suspended road. And there was little police presence and security presence, as I said earlier on. So he could perpetuate that kind of crime, just like as Cliff Orji did around Ajao Estate area, because that place was lonely and sparsely populated. It would be very difficult now for Cliff Orji to do such activities there. I am not exonerating my people. The youths involved in some of these criminalities recently were born in my community. And parents today don't care how children get money. Yeah, the young man, number two, the victim and the assailant were internet fraudsters. He knew that that boy was into internet fraud. And so he was opening boutiques around the town. Nobody knew what he was doing. So two of them were criminals. But we live in a society, including my society, my community, where young men will get rich. You don't know what they are doing. And we will celebrate them in church. We will celebrate them in the community. And then they become superstars and even control the security agents. You will see an internet fraudster moving around with security all over Nigeria. It happens. So they become authorities. We see them in ceremonies. They throw money. I was coming from another of my communities. I saw young children throwing leaves. I realized later that it was one internet fraudster that did a birthday for his child, and he was throwing money. So the children in the streets, in the village, went and plucked leaves, and they started throwing leaves. They are already imbibing the culture of exhibitionism that is unquestioned. There are mothers in our communities that carry their sons to go and meet Yahoo kingpins. They buy phones for them and teach and ask the HK king to teach the son the business. And so you will see mothers celebrating. I went to a community celebrating when their children defraud people. I was in a community that was doing a prayer meeting for progress in the community. And one of these internet fraudsters defrauded somebody of millions of naira. He was in that prayer meeting and immediately he had the alert. He announced it there. The prayer meeting scattered. People ran home to start pouring powder on their heads as if they won a jackpot or won a court case. Otokutu is in the news because of its proximity to the township, because of its urban nature, and because people who have a sense of decency decided to expose the iniquities taking place there. Otokutu is in the news because there was a police officer who refused to be bribed. But what is happening in Otokutu is in all our communities in the Niger Delta, in the Warri periphery. And it must be taken very seriously. We must condemn that attitude, condemn it. We stand against criminality. I have stood for integrity, stood for hard work, stood for frugality, stood for decency and truth. It will surprise you to know that if not for the kind of person I am, if I go for a ceremony or go to a ceremony in that community, they will recognize a criminal that is spraying money more than me, that is an intellectual and an elder statesman there. It's like that all over the Niger Delta, all over, and even this country. And so what is happening in Otokutu is like what the Igbos say, ihe ọjọọ gafela afọ abụọ, ọ ga-abụ omenala. Now, when something evil continues for more than 2 years and it is tolerated, it becomes a tradition. We have tolerated criminality, we have tolerated conspicuous consumption, we have tolerated exhibitionism. When some of us share testimonies about how God has blessed us legitimately through hard work and intellectualism, we don't say them to be proud. We say them to also encourage younger ones listening to us in our communities that you can globalize and be a global icon, create a reputation through education, hard work, and legitimate living in the hands of God. Our communities need new models, people the young ones can emulate, and we must start very early to take youth mentorship and reorientation very seriously. I have the following suggestions. Number one, the government should establish a police station in Otokutu. Number two, the president generals and the executive of the community must take security, vigilance very seriously. Number three, we who come from there should make sure we teach our youths the values that make people legitimately rich. I go there, my friends, my mentee's church, Reverend Samson Bojo. I told him I will keep being the guest speaker during their Thanksgiving service until I tell them that I'm no longer coming or they tell me I should not come again. And when I go there, I share how we have managed to reach this level with a father who was a security guard in a hotel. Each year, I give scholarship to children. This year, I gave 20 scholarships. Next year, I want to increase it to 40. And if God helps me, I will have up to 1,000 students on scholarship. I went there under the auspices of Salimo Wicks Foundation to teach them how to repair phones, to teach them how to do baking and preparation of snacks and small chops, hair tie and makeup, bead making. And let me tell you, before then, there were some women in church who were selling cannabis. They were in church. They were selling cannabis. But after we taught them and empowered them, they stopped, and the income of the church increased 300% in 3 months. And so we who come from that place must start doing intentional interventions with our youths in our churches, not just giving money, not rice. This is a nation of rice. Rice. We must do intentional intervention so that people will know that you can work hard and produce wealth. Now, the next thing is that the community must come together and tackle some key issues in that community. One of them is promiscuity. The other one is drug abuse and this internet fraud stuff. I want to suggest that the house that young man was building should not be demolished. It should not be demolished. From their confessions and the statements, if the court decides to jail them, that house should be handed over to the relatives of the young man that was deleted. If they decide to sell it, let them sell it. But at least let them be compensated by that act. And I, Dr. Charles Apoki, I strongly condemn criminality in my community. It does not reflect who we are. Does not reflect who we are. This is a generation that do not know our culture. They do not know God. They do not fear God. It's a generation of conspicuous consumption, including that high priest. That high priest. High priest, does he understand how the idols in Roboland function? They will, if you break their rules, they will trap you. They are not as merciful as Jehovah is. All the idols in Roboland, they don't forgive if you mess up. And so the high priest, it was the shrine he was worshiping that caught up with him. And so we must be very careful as a people not to tolerate rubbish or defend rubbish. And I want to address those young men from my community. It is not those who are sharing the videos of the criminality in our community that are spoiling the name of our community. It is you, the young people in our community that are involved in criminality that spoil the name of our community. You commit a crime, you want somebody to defend you? No. We as elders of that community, leaders of that community, must stand up and say, this is not our nature. This is not what we represent. I remain a proud Nigerian, a proud Urobo man, a proud Ugemi man, and a proud citizen of Otokutu community. I am Dr. Charles Apoki, the aerial grandfather. I have a webinar coming up on the 10th and on the 11th of January, hitting the ground running financially in 2025. Let's learn key principles of legitimately getting rich. If I receive a phone call, I don't panic because I'm not owing any bank. I'm not owing any person. People who buy properties from me, as you pay, allocate your plots to you. And anytime you need your documents, I give them to you. Somebody paid and couldn't meet up. I refunded his money to him. Somebody bought land from me in Okwokoko for 5 years. He had no receipt. I didn't know where he was. The price of the land had increased. He came back. When I saw him on the street, I told him, and I handed over his documents to him. and he has built his house near my school. We are men of integrity. Do you hear me, man? He's a man of integrity, not these charlatans that are coming up out of parents and societies that tolerate iniquity. I remain Dr. Charles Apoki. God bless you. Send a message to +234 80 21 21 92 62 to register for our webinar and to make inquiries concerning our properties. People are buying from all over the world. People are registering from all over the world. God bless you.